Thanks for coming tonight. I'm Brian Piazza, high school principal, for those of you that don't know me. This is our second parent and student information session about the drop rotation schedule. When we started this work in 2018-2019, it was grounded in the mission of our school district. All right, through the partnerships that we create in the community, through the opportunities that we give our students, we want them to continue to grow, so that when they leave Carmel High School, they have fulfilled the competencies of the 6 C's, okay? And that's what really grounds our work. The 6 C's are the competencies that we feel as a community when we came together in the 2018-2019 school year. These are the competencies that students need to be successful in the real world: compassion, creativity, citizenship, collaboration, communication. And through their academic journey, through their opportunities that we provide them through extracurricular activities, through the experiences that they get working with teachers and their fellow students, that's the goal, is to leave with those 6 C's. So we talk about why are we considering different scheduling options. Originally, it began as a way to reflect and evaluate our current practices, embrace the mission that we spoke about before, which is to prepare lifelong learners in an ever-changing world, to prepare and provide opportunities that are in line with the New York State Blue Ribbon Commission recommendations, which are calling for deeper learning experience and project-based learning, and that's an initiative rolled out by the State Education Department. We wanted to build in time for school-wide activities and opportunities for students to build connections with each other, which is so important. And ultimately, we want to maximize student learning, promote their academic success, increase engagement, a sense of belonging, and support their physical and mental well-being. So, a little history about our schedule exploration. As I mentioned, we started a scheduling committee in the 2018-2019 school year, and we researched different master scheduling models that schools around our area in the Hudson Valley and also around the country have used. And we did some visits to different schools to see what they've done. So we started in that school year with visits to Suffern High School, Putnam Valley High School, and Nyack. And then we expanded those visits to Danbury High School, Cornwall High School, and we have been in communication with schools from across the region about what is their scheduling model, what has worked for them and for their students. So in February 2020, our scheduling committee made a recommendation that we should look to move to a drop rotation schedule. Of course, the next month, COVID hit and everything got put on pause. Back when I returned to Carmel as principal in 23-24 school year, we restarted the scheduling committee, and again, in May of 2024, that scheduling committee recommended we should move to a drop rotation schedule. So at that point, we started to engage in discussions with food services, our custodial staff, transportation, monitors, teachers, staff, and administration about what a transition to a drop rotation schedule would look like. In the 24-25 school year, we partnered with Challenge Success. Sorry. Better? My fault. I'm going to take this opportunity to have a little Starbucks. Sorry. It's a constant for me, as Mr. Rainey can attest to. So we partnered with Challenge Success to do a student survey. And Challenge Success is a program out of Stanford University, and I will touch on those survey results in a few minutes. We made a drop rotation schedule recommendation to the district office. In March 2025, we did a presentation with Challenge Success from Stanford about the well-balanced student, and we shared our survey results in that presentation. In June of 2025, some of you may have been here for the scheduling presentation that we made last year. This year, we are continuing with our presentation. First to students. All right, so I've gone around to the 11th grade classrooms to get feedback from all of our 11th graders on the drop rotation schedule, and they've been pretty open and honest with me about the things that they like about it and the things that they're not so sure about yet. Now tonight, we're having the second presentation to our parents and our students, and in February of 2026, Ms. Golan, our assistant principal, is helping us put together a community lunch committee to get ideas from students on the things that they would like to see during community lunch, which we'll be touching on later what that looks like. So now I'd like to share a little bit about our Challenge Success survey. The Challenge Success Survey focused on a couple of different areas. Students' physical health and well-being, their academic engagement, their feeling of support and belonging at school, how they felt about their homework and extracurricular activities, their grades and assessments, and the expectations that they felt their parents had for them as a student. So, the first area that came up for us in the survey was about student stress. So we had over 1,000 students, and this survey was given last November, 2024. We had over 1,000 students respond to the survey. And over 86% of those students stated that they had a stress-related symptom in the previous month, which was a big concern for us. It's about 6% higher than the other schools that Challenge Success works with. And in general, we don't want our students, we want our students and we expect our students to have a normal level of stress. To be a high school student, to be a teenager, is to be stressed, right? That is part of growing up. However, a stressor that leads to stomach aches, anxiety, depression, not wanting to come to school, that's what we want to avoid. And we want to make sure as a school, we are not creating a system that leads to more stress. We are creating a system that creates an appropriate level of stress and then supports students working through that stress and developing the coping skills they need to do so. So what our kids told us in terms of what were the causes of stress. Over 60% said the highest cause was grades, tests, quizzes, and finals. 52% said it was their future plans. 51% said their overall workload and homework. 50% said lack of sleep. 38% said procrastination or time management. 36% said a specific class or classes. And another 36% said a lack of time to play, relax, or be with friends. We also had students stating that mental health issues such as depression and anxiety were causing them stress. So next, I'm just going to share some information about our students' sleep and what they're reporting to us. Our students report that they get 6.3 hours of sleep per night. That is 2.7 hours less than what is recommended for an adolescent. And it's 0.6 hours less than the other schools that Challenge Success has surveyed. Okay? And this is not a surprise for us, because I would ask you, please find me a school in the region, possibly in New York State, that starts class before 7:09. We are the earliest in the region. We're probably the earliest in the state, and I would assume that we're one of the earliest in the country, to be frank. And what we're doing by starting that early is that we are not allowing our kids to get the sleep that they need to be rested, to be feeling well physically and mentally, to come to school ready to learn and be their best. And when I think about the idea of getting 9 hours of sleep, and when I talk to the juniors about that, it's almost laughable. Because if you have to catch the bus at 10 after 6 in the morning, that means you're probably waking up at 5:30, 5:45 maybe. And then to get 9 hours of sleep, you would be in bed by 8:45, 9 o'clock. Probably not going to happen for most of our high schoolers. So we looked at, this is one area where we can certainly improve. And then one piece of that, which you'll also see, which is tied into the lack of sleep, is for students that do have a cell phone or a smartphone, where do they keep it at night? 89% keep it in their bedroom, right? And as an adult, I could say it's the same thing for me, right? We use it as our alarm clock, whatever the case may be. But because they keep it in their bedroom, they are going to find that they're more likely to scroll or check or hear a text come through, and they're not going to get the sleep that they need, you know? The next slide talks about student support. So 69% of our students report that they have a go-to adult in the building that they would be comfortable with speaking about a personal problem or concern. So we can look at that in one of two ways. It's fantastic that 7 out of 10 of our students have an adult that they can go to in this building with a concern, right? And if we look at the numbers, right, as they go up from 9th grade to 12th grade, that number goes all the way to 75%. So 75% of our 12th graders are saying, I have a person. The flip side for me is, that means there's a quarter of our students in this building that don't feel comfortable going to an adult with a problem, with a concern, right? And I don't expect that our kids need to share every single concern that they have in their lives with an adult. But I certainly want every kid that steps through that door every day to know that there's a caring adult in this building. If they need something, they can go to us. So that is an area of improvement for us, for sure. And we have to look at what systems do we have in place to allow for students to make those connections with the adults in our building. Next, I'm going to speak about engagement. So Stanford University, who conducts a survey, defines engagement in 3 different ways. Behavioral engagement, which is that students work hard and care about completing assignments and achieving good grades. Cognitive engagement, which is that students value schoolwork and see the meaning and purpose of their learning. And effective engagement, which is the highest level, which is students enjoy school and find their work interesting and fun. And what you'll see from our numbers is the vast majority of our students are what Stanford and what Challenge Success would say is doing school. Their answers were that they're behaviorally engaged or a little bit of cognitive, a mix of behavioral engagement and cognitive engagement, meaning that we're very lucky. We have great kids. We have kids that are told from the time that they go into pre-K and kindergarten, when you go to school, you're going to work hard, you're going to do your best, you're going to listen to your teacher, right? And that's what they do. They come in and they do the right thing day after day. They are behaviorally engaged in class, okay? We have a smaller number which are purposefully engaged, okay? Those are the students who are getting the joy out of learning, okay? And seeing the value in the work that they're doing, right? And the same with fully engaged. Those are the kids that love coming to school, love their classes every day. Now, every student is going to have a different experience in each class, right? I could be a student that loves social studies, and from my personal experience as a student here, I would never have been engaged in algebra or algebra 2 or geometry. Okay, I only did so because I knew I needed it to graduate, right? It just wasn't for me. But what we want to do is create a system where kids can fully engage. And the way I describe Carmel High School, and I've used this analogy a lot, Carmel High School, we have a 9-period day with 41-minute periods. Carmel High School is like an airport for our students. They fly into class and land, right? Take about 5 minutes to get settled in. They get about 30 minutes of instruction, and the last 5 minutes they're looking to make their connecting flight to their next class. And they just keep moving and moving and moving throughout the day. So we don't give them an opportunity to fully engage because they're constantly moving. And so that's one of the things that is within our control, right? And I think that what we've seen this year and what we've heard from our kids and from our staff members, teachers, in addition, is that because students don't have access to this all day throughout the day, because I know each and every one of them puts it in their yonder pouch each day, right? For the most part they do. They do a really good job with it. But because of that, they can engage more. So we are seeing a higher level of engagement through that, and that has been definitely one of the positives. So when we asked our students, what are some improvements we can do at Carmel High School? The first one, the highest one, was no homework over weekends or breaks. Okay, I expect that, 54%. 50% said a reduced homework load. 35%, and this is from a drop down that they had to choose from. 36% said change the schedule, later, i.e. later start or longer passing periods. 33% said opportunities for more hands-on active learning with real-world applications. 25% said have teachers coordinate due dates for major projects and assessments. And 15% said improve the culture and community in the school. So, from my perspective as the principal here, I think about, as a school, what can we control? So, what we can control at Carmel High School and in our district is that we create school structures that promote increased student engagement and maximize learning, support student mental health, physical health, and well-being, help students develop a sense of belonging and connection to Carmel High School, and promote students' academic success and achievement. That's what's within our control. And that's what I'll touch upon now with some of the recommendations. So, as I said, our students reported getting 6.3 hours of sleep per night. So, one of our recommendations is to move our start time back. The proposed start time I have right now is the 7:29 start time and a 2:10 dismissal. And last June, that proposal was a 7:49 start time and a 2:30 dismissal. The feedback that we received from students, okay, especially from our juniors who are going to be seniors, is that they felt like that was going to be a huge change for them, okay, to push back 40 minutes. So while the data says that that is something that we would like to do possibly in the future, the recommendation I have for next year is to move us back by 20 minutes to buy more sleep for our students, okay? And also because of the change to the schedule, students would be able to, on days that they don't have a first period class or a second period or a third period or a fourth period because of the rotation, they would be able to sleep in even more and get a little bit more rest and come into school ready to work and learn. By pushing back 20 minutes, we would have minimal impact on sports and after-school activities. And again, it would put us in line with some of our local high schools. Brewster has a 7:40 start time and a 2:35 end time. Putnam Valley High School has a 7:43 a.m. start time and a 2:38 end time. And Somers High School has a 7:35 a.m. start time and a 2:10 end time. The next recommendation is longer instructional periods. Longer instructional periods, which in this case would be 56-minute instructional periods, okay, and I'll go into detail what that looks like, will give an opportunity for our students to dive deeper into their curriculum. It would create time for project-based learning activities that are in line with the New York State Graduation Measures Initiative. Our students would have less transitions per day because we would not have 9 periods meeting a day. We would have 3 in the morning, a community lunch, and then 3 in the afternoon. And it would give students an ability to focus and fully engage in the learning in class. Third recommendation is a community lunch. And a community lunch is something that we have seen schools adopt across New York State. It's an opportunity where everyone has lunch at the same time. It is a downtime in the middle of the day for every single student. It's a chance for our students to connect with their friends. One of the things that we hear from our students is that, especially when they're in 9th grade, what I'll often get over the summer is very nice emails from our incoming 9th graders saying, "Can I switch my lunch to be with my best friend?" Okay? And while I would love to say yes to every single one of those requests, we know that we're not able to fulfill that. This takes away that. Okay? This gives an opportunity for every single kid who comes to this high school to know on day one, they will be able to connect with someone that they have a relationship from George Fisher, from wherever it is, you know, elementary school, okay? An older sibling, an older friend. They would all have that opportunity. During this time period, we would change the way that we run our lunch at Carmel High School. We would open up different areas, right? As our students know now, during lunch, they are able to be in the library or the cafeteria. And after 10 minutes, we ask that they choose one of those places to stay for the rest of the period. If they're in 11th to 12th grade, they're allowed to go uptown, and then they come back. During community lunch, we would open up different areas in the building for students to be at. So the library and cafeteria would still be open, but we would also be opening up the gymnasium with supervision for students to be able to play different games, basketball, volleyball, whatever it may be. We would have specific events that we would be able to run during the day during community lunch. Some of the schools that we went to visit Suffern High School, and they have a handball tournament that they do during lunch. They do ping pong tournaments. Those are the things that we would be able to do, school-wide events that build community. We would be able to have pep rallies and celebrations of our students during community lunch when we know everybody is free and has the opportunity to get together. In addition, we would open up the weight room for students and have supervision for the weight room. And then we're going to open up different spaces in the building that students can be at. So some of what the suggestions that I've made, and we've included in my budget presentation to our district office, would be different spaces for students to eat besides just the cafeteria. So we'd like to put a grab-and-go station with wraps and food right out here outside the library, where students would be able to grab food. They would be able, during the warm months, use the courtyard, that beautiful courtyard that's out there. And I see Mr. Fink back here. He was one of the person that brought this courtyard, that very nice courtyard, upper courtyard, to Carmel High School, and our lower courtyard as well. In addition, we would open up the triangle and different spaces in the building and bring in additional furniture. So one of the things that I've looked at is in the gym lobby. We have, some of our students will know, we have between two pillars some dead space in the gym lobby. Okay, there's nothing there. All right, we're going to buy some flexible furniture and open up that space for kids to relax. And additionally, we would open up. We're looking at either a vending machine or the snack bar down in the gym lobby as another place for kids to grab food. And of course, for our 11th and 12th graders, we would still have Uptown as an option during community lunch. That's the gist of the community lunch piece. One thing I would like to mention is that, because this came up in the questions from the 11th graders, is will I still have the ability to have a free period? The answer is yes. So we would still have the ability to have a free period, and our students would still have free periods if they chose to, built into their schedule, and they would have access to the cafeteria during those time periods. So our hope is that we would still be able to offer food service, limited food service in the cafeteria, not just during community lunch, but during the normal time when they would grab breakfast or after community lunch in the afternoon if they had a free period. Okay, that's one question that always comes up in the English classes. And the last piece I'll speak about is a flex period. So because of the way that we would change science labs, which I'll talk about in a second, students will have a period that is open every 8 days in their cycle. And during this time period, this is a place where they could get AIS support. They would be able to possibly do music lessons, and we're working with the music department on that. This might be a place where a study hall goes in, okay? And we've also heard from our students about the idea of doing mini electives. Our students love the opportunity that they have to take so many classes at Carmel High School. So part of what we would build in is mini electives into the schedule, which are offerings that they could take during a flex period or during community lunch for additional enrichment. And something that would be able to go on their transcript if they chose to do so. And they would be looking at, we are looking at either 5-week courses of student interest or 10-week courses of student interest. And that's one of the things that we have built in. And then in the future, and we've talked about this, when we talk about that connection for our students, the idea of building in an advisory and a chance for students to connect with an adult, whether it's on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, a person that they are assigned to from freshman year onward, who they can develop a relationship with, speak with about anything that's going on. So that's something that we've talked about building in at some point, and we would certainly like to do that in the future. And finally, this is what the drop rotation schedule would look like. The key components of it are, it's an 8-day cycle. The classes meet 6 out of 8 days, okay? And there's a morning rotation of 4 classes and an afternoon rotation of 4 classes with lunch in the middle. So students would not start or end the day with the same class every single day, okay? So the way that it works is on day A, I'll show you on the next page, or excuse me, 2 pages from now, but on day A, you would have your first period class, okay? Second period class and third period class. Your fourth period class would drop out. Then you would have lunch. Then you would have your period 6 class, period 7 class, and your period 8 class, and your period 9 class would drop out for that day. Then on day B, the next day, you would start with your period 4 class, then go to your period 1 class, then your period 2 with lunch. Same thing on the second half of the day, period 9, then period 6, then period 7. And I'll show you in a couple slides. It's an explanation of it that looks a little bit easier to follow. So as I mentioned, some of the key components are a 56-minute instructional period, 43-minute community lunch, an 8-day cycle instead of our 6-day cycle, and students would be able to be scheduled for up to 8 academic courses. We would have 6 instructional periods meet per day, and classes would meet 6 out of 8 cycles. So a little bit bigger view of the schedule here. And then a sample schedule for an 11th grader. So on day A, this student would have chemistry, period 1. Then they would have a free in their second period, AP Lang, which is English 11 in third period. Then they would have lunch. Second half of the day, they would have AP US History, Algebra 2R, and SUNY Spanish 4. The next day. So on day A, you will see that their health class drops out and their AP Psychology class drops out. So on day B, they start their day with health, then they move to chemistry, then they would have their phys ed class, then they would have lunch. AP Psychology would start the second half of their day, AP US History, and Algebra 2 Regents. On day C, they would start their day with their AP Lang class, then move to health, then move to chemistry, then lunch, SUNY Spanish, AP Psychology, and AP US. And day D, they would start with their Chem Lab, AP Language, Health, then lunch, Algebra 2R, SUNY Spanish, and AP Psychology. And then you'll see that, except for phys ed, day E, F, G, and H is a mirror of the first 4 days. Okay? So essentially it is a cycle through of classes, a rotation. So students do not have the same class starting first period every day, right? If you were like me and did not love chemistry in high school, you won't always have chemistry first period. Okay? Some days you'll start with health, some days you'll start with AP Lang, some days you'll start with lab. Okay? That is what the general rotation looks like. And for our students here, I've done this for a number of our students in the building. If you'd like to come to my office and make an appointment, I can show you. I'll drop your schedule right into the rotation, and I'll show you what your current schedule would look like in this new schedule. Okay? And one of the big reasons why we do this, in terms of talking about maximizing learning, by moving to this new schedule with 56-minute periods, our students are gaining 183 more minutes of instruction per course per year, which averages out to about 3 hours of instruction per class per year, which is about 4.5 more classes in our current schedule per class per year. And overall, when you look at our total schedule, we would be gaining 23 hours of instruction by moving to this new schedule. So we would be maximizing the learning for our students in this new schedule. I'm just going to go through and share a couple of frequently asked questions and a little bit about the feedback that we received last year. So some of the plan updates from June of 2025. In terms of bus transportation, last year we spoke about how we would push back the start time. And one of the ideas that we had was combining the routes of the 6th through 12th graders, okay? At this point, that's not something that we're gonna do to push back the start time, okay? So that is not in our current plan to combine routes with George Fisher and the high school for next year. In terms of the start time itself, we changed, based on the feedback from students, we've changed the start time from 40 minutes pushback to 20 minutes, okay? In the future, I would like to get to that 40-minute mark, but we're looking to make incremental change, and we believe that 20 minutes is a good starting time for our students, and will also, with the drop rotation schedule, allow students to get more sleep. And then the feedback we had from students in terms of the 8 academic classes was that they would like to have the ability for some enrichment. So we are planning to offer these mini electives that we will build into the schedule that will be a place where students can get enrichment in things, hopefully courses that they are interested in and that our teachers, a subject area that they're interested in teaching, that can add to their transcript, but really just for the joy of learning. And that's what our kids have really expressed to us is they do love taking all the options that we have available to them here, and we do have a ton of options for our students to choose from. In terms of science labs, one of the concerns that originally came up for us was that our students were worried about having lab, and also our teachers were worried about having lab back to back the way we do now. So currently our labs meet 3 out of 6 days on our cycle, and they're back to back with science. So right now, if you are in Earth and Space Science, you have 82 minutes of, when you have a lab day, 3 out of 6 cycles, you have 82 minutes of instruction in a row. That is not going to happen in this new schedule. We are going to change because we are over on the lab minutes already, we are above our requirement on the lab minutes already, we are going to go 2 out of 8 cycles for our labs, and our labs are going to populate the student's schedule on the day that their course falls out. So when you look back on the schedule with chemistry, you'll see, the sample 11th grade schedule I just showed, you'll see that chemistry and chemistry lab are never back to back. We don't have 112 minutes of instruction in a row in chemistry. We have it populate the day that chemistry falls out of the student's schedule. So essentially the student does have chemistry every day, but 2 out of the 8 cycles, it is the lab component. Often we get questions about BOCES, and last year I mentioned that BOCES had told us that they were going to possibly eliminate the mid-session BOCES, and that is something they have chosen to do. 11 out of the 15 component districts in Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES either are looking to move to a drop rotation schedule or have already adopted a drop rotation or modified block schedule with community lunch. Therefore, BOCES is adjusting, and BOCES is extending their morning and afternoon sessions. So students will be able to get more academic credits at BOCES in the morning and afternoon sessions, but the mid-session BOCES will no longer exist, and that works out well for our schedule. So BOCES sessions will now be from instead of 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., they're going to be 8 a.m. to 10:40 a.m., okay, with students arriving back to Carmel High School at 11:10 a.m. So our students will still be able to take 4 academic classes in the afternoon if they are in AM BOCES. And then students who are in PM BOCES, their BOCES session will be from 11:20 to 2 p.m. The bus will leave at 10:50 a.m. and those students will still be able to get 4 academic classes in BOCES at Carmel High School in the morning, and then take their BOCES courses and earn additional academic credit in the extended time BOCES in the afternoon. So that change from BOCES works out very well for us. In terms of when you look at our schedule to other schools in the area, there are a number of different school districts, as I mentioned earlier, who have a drop rotation or a modified block schedule with extended learning periods. So I picked out a couple. Fox Lane, which has a drop rotation schedule with 54-minute periods. Byram Hills, which has a drop rotation schedule with 63-minute periods. Chappaqua or Horace Greeley has a drop rotation schedule with 60-minute periods. And they also all have, most of these schools have community lunch or lunch waves. Somers has a very similar schedule to us, drop rotation 56-minute periods. Scarsdale just moved to a drop rotation schedule with 47-minute periods. And Haldane has a drop rotation schedule with 55-minute periods. And the question came up last June about what have we seen in terms of other schools that have moved to drop rotation schedule or a modified block schedule, similar to what we're looking at. And what you'll see is that our Carmel High School performs very well compared to these schools. The schools that have moved to this type of schedule, the graduation rate, you'll see, is very similar to us. So Suffern, which is a school district same size as us, 93% graduation rate. Somers 97%, Rye 98%, Putt Valley 95%, Haldane 96%, Byram Hills 98%, and Bedford 91%. So when the question was about student achievement, how does this impact student achievement? We don't see a change in student achievement in moving to this schedule. In terms of what we think by adding the additional instructional minutes and hours over the course of the year, that we will see continued rise in our student achievement, which I'm very proud of our current graduation rate, which was 93% last year. So, just want to speak to you a little bit about our next steps. So we have, at this point, presented to the Board of Education about this schedule. We've presented to parents and students, okay? We are at the point now where we are moving towards implementation of this schedule for the 26-27 school year. And one of the last factors that we are working on is the things that we've talked about building into our budget. So I've made the proposal in December to our district office for what we would need in order to make sure that this schedule works in terms of the additional furniture that I've requested, the additional food services pieces that I've requested, okay, and we're working with transportation to finalize the start and end time. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. Now, if there's any questions that you have currently, and for folks that are at home, I will, as many of you may know, this is recorded. So speaking to the folks at home, those of you who are not able to be here tonight, we will be sending out a survey where you can ask questions that you have about the presentation.